So we'll know about UI policies. Okay. So if you open any record, like any form, okay, you might want to do some things like some fields, make some fields mandatory or read only or hide them. Okay. Hide them or show them based on certain conditions. Okay. So here, for example, this is mandatory and this is mandatory. We did it mandatory. Okay. Similarly, some fields we want to make some of them read only and we want to hide some of them. Okay. For example, say it is on hold. If it is on hold, then only I want to show on hold reason. Okay. So I want to show certain fields only based on certain conditions. Okay. And I want to make certain fields mandatory as well. Okay. If it is on hold, then only it is mandatory and this should be visible. Okay. So whenever we want to make some field mandatory or read only, or we want to show or hide some fields, then we will be using UI policies. Okay. So let's open UI policies. So first let's observe what are the already existing UI policies on incident, and then we'll write our own. Okay. So on the incident table, so set caller field mandatory for new records and set caller field mandatory state. So let me open both of these and check what is there. So if you see, there are certain conditions in when to apply. So in when to apply, caused by change is not empty and or table origin table is one of incident change or alert table. Okay. If it is if it satisfies this particular condition, there will be few actions which needs to be performed. Actually, there are no actions here. I guess they have written some script. Okay, we can either write UI policy actions or we can even write the script. So here, if it is a new record, they are making it false. Okay, so what they are doing is like whenever this particular condition matches, like caused by changes is not empty, means in this particular field caused by change there is something, that means I guess that will hold the change from which that particular incident got inherited or something. Okay. Or the origin table is one of these. Okay. Then what we are doing, we are making caller ID to false. Caller ID set mandatory to false. When we are doing it, if it is a new record. Okay. So whenever it is a new record, so how we will know whether this is a new record or not? New record means like generally, let me open. So So if you click on new, so this is a new record. So in this particular state, we are making this particular caller ID field to non-mandatory. Okay. Okay. So in this particular case, we are making that particular caller ID false. So even I don't know how to test this because this particular caused by change in origin table. When these particular fields will be filled, we need to check. Okay. Most probably, whenever we are creating incident from change, I guess. Um, let's leave that, and I'll check one more UI policy. Okay. So one more UI policy is also looks the same, where origin table is one of these. Okay, let me check what is that particular field is origin table. So I am getting origin table field. So as of now, I can see origin table is empty for most of them. Okay, if origin table is one of these change request and incident, then if it is not a new record, then also they are making caller ID to false. Okay, and are there any extra UI policy actions? There are no actions actually. Let's open any other UI policies which are simple so that we can understand. Let's observe these two. So here what we are doing, when the state is on hold reason is visible and mandatory. Okay. So what we are doing when to apply is state is on hold. Whenever the state is on hold, we are making on hold reason to mandatory true and visible true, and leave like read only is leave alone. That means it has to be mandatory. Okay. So whenever state is on hold and on hold reason will be mandatory and it will be visible. If you see in this particular advanced view, there will be one checkbox which is called reverse if false. Okay. So there is like it plays the great effect on this particular UI policy. You have to understand how this particular field will run. Okay. So whenever the state is on hold, it will be visible and it will be mandatory. That particular on hold reason field will be mandatory and it will be visible. What is reverse if false is, so what if this particular state is not on hold? Then what it will do? It will reverse this particular condition. Reverse this. Reverse means it will do it not mandatory and it will hide it. That is the meaning of reverse. Okay. So if it is false, okay, it will do true. If it is true, it will do false. And if it is leave alone, it won't do anything. Okay. So I'll show you how that works. So 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 now if the state is in on hold, we are able to see on hold reason and it is visible. Like whenever I make it on hold, it is getting populated, like it is showing, right? That is mean by visible, and it is making it mandatory. Okay. And if I again do to in progress, it is hiding. How that is happening? That is because of reverse if false. Okay. If I uh, if I uncheck it, okay, and if I save it, how it will behave, we will check. Okay. So as as the UI policies will also run on load and on change both, so it will check whether the condition is matching or not. So the state is in progress, right? But it will only run when it is in on hold, and reverse if false is not checked. So as it is in progress, it won't apply here. Okay, as reverse if false is not, we have not checked it. So that's why if it is in progress, it is not doing anything to that particular field. Only if it is on hold, then we are showing it and we are making it mandatory. Okay, if it is in progress or uh, any other state, if I change, it is not changing its behavior. Okay, it is leaving as it was previous state. Okay. Okay, so if it is on hold, it is for the first time. If I make it on hold, it is making it mandatory, and read, and it is showing it is it's already there. It will still show. It will try to show, because that won't apply because it's already there. But it will try to do the mandatory. Okay, and if I change to some other state, like for example in progress, okay, it is not hiding. Why? Because I have not checked reverse if false. Okay. So it plays very important role, and you have to understand how this will work if I check reverse if false. Okay. If I check reverse if false, if this condition not matches, then if it is mandatory true, it will do not mandatory, and if it is visible true, it will be hiding it. Okay, if it is read only true, it will be like generally it will be making it read only, and if it is reverse if false, it will be editable, like that it will be. Okay, so if you check here, there is unload as well, right? So apply the UI policy action whenever the form is loaded. Okay, so if you want UI policy to be run even on the load of the form, then you have to check this. Okay, so UI policy will be running on load and unchanged. Okay, and there is one more UI policy: make additional fields mandatory when on hold reason is awaiting caller. Okay, whenever the state is in on hold and on hold reason is awaiting caller, this doesn't run on load. This will be running only when they change it. Okay, they are making comments mandatory to true. Okay, so whenever, so now if you see, so these comments are not mandatory. Okay, but if the state is in on hold and on hold reason is awaiting caller, this additional comments got mandatory. Okay, because that particular UI policy is getting applied. Okay, so I'll try to create a new UI policy. Okay, first what I'll do, otherwise I'll try to do on demo table, or no, let's do here only. We'll be understanding more concepts. Okay, so what we can do is, for now, like we want to make number field read only. We don't want it to be editable to anyone. Okay, then what we can do, we can go to UI policies We can create a new UI policy. Okay. First, before creating, we have to understand what are all the UI policies are doing. So one is for field set to mandatory in all the states. Okay. So this will be applying every time. Okay. So what this is doing? So this is what this is doing. It is making the caller ID mandatory and short description all the time. Okay. So here we can even change this because it is applying every time. We can even do like set fields mandatory or read only. We can say, and in this particular UI policy itself, what I'll do, I'll create a new action, UI policy action, which will be bring the number field to read only. So I clicked on new button in the UI policy action. Here the table will be incident and I have to select the field name. Okay. The field name is number. So it is alphabetically sorted. So you can find with number. Okay. So I have selected number. So what I want to do here, do I want to make mandatory? No. Visible. It's already visible. I just want to make it read only to true. Okay. And I can submit the form. Okay. So if I check now, if I reload it, it is not working. Okay. So let's check why it is not working. There might be any other UI policies or working on it. Let's check. Okay. So we have to. So now what I did number field to read only all the time, but it's not working. Okay. There might be any other UI policies which might be affecting it. Let's check how we can check it. So we can open this particular actions. We can open in a new tab and we can check with the number field. Okay, what are all the UI policies are getting applied on this particular number field. So for incident table, there is already one UI policy which is there. Make fields read only on close. Okay. So there also on the number field it is running, and here as well there is one more UI policy which is running. Okay. How I came here is, once again let me show you. Okay. So this is UI policy. Let me open where I was. No. Yeah. So this is UI policy actions, right? So if I open in new tab, okay, and what I am doing, I am doing show matching with the number field in this particular UI actions table. So, and I want to remove this particular UI policy so that I will be getting all the UI policies here. So if I see here for the incident table, okay, with number field, there are two UI policies which are getting applied. One is which I created and one is which is making read only on close. Okay, so on the same field, those both are conflicting. Okay. So as I want to like work every time, so I can remove this particular condition. Like I can remove it from here as I want every time, not only on closed or cancel. So what I'll do, I'll just open it and remove it. I'm deleting this particular UI policy action, which is only works on closed or cancelled. So now if I try to refresh, so this is working, which is making number field read only all the time. Okay. So similarly, what we can do is we can like for example, mm, so for closed or resolved, these are mandatory. Okay. So if you see, like if it is in progress, it is not mandatory. But if it is resolved or closed, these resolution codes and resolution notes got mandatory. How those got mandatory? There is a UI policy which will be checking, okay, whether like those particular like let me open it. Set color, set. So there might be UI policy or client script. We can check it later. But as of now, what I'll do, I'll create a new UI policy and I'll try to explain what are all the options we have and how we can use that. Okay. So first, let me try to create a UI policy. So we can name the UI policy what it will do. So what we can do is, as of now, make demo is a field we have created, but let's check. Okay, and we have selected the table as incident. Okay. So in the when to apply condition, in when to apply, we can select on which cases it will be working. That means in which cases it will be applying. Okay. So as of now, I can select some state. Okay. State, I want to select state is one of new or in progress. I want to make it mandatory. Okay. And I want to show it. Okay. So if you see here, there is a global field. Okay. If it is selected, the UI policy will be applied to all form views. Otherwise, UI policy is view specific. What it means is in any of the tables or records, there will be some views. Okay. So if you click on this particular header, okay, if you click on this display value or the table name, you will be seeing the all the different types of views. So as of now, we are in default view. Okay. So for some, it will be like if you open from service portal, it will be opening from service portal view. Okay. Where the fields will be different. So for service portal, so generally a view means it is the same form, same table, but what fields we want to show or what fields we want to make those mandatory and read only, it will be different. Okay, that is a view. So in the tomorrow's class, I will tell you about views, but view is something like like if they are opening from service portal, they don't need all the fields to be seen. They can see only these. So I have created a separate view with service portal. Okay. Similarly for mobile, if they open from mobile, I want to show them these particular fields. Okay. So this is how that particular view will work. So if you want to make like your particular for example, only for mobile, I want to do some changes or do some apply some UI policy. Okay, I can uncheck this. Okay, upon unchecking, I can see the view. Okay, so in this particular view, like for example, in the mobile view, I can apply only for mobile view this particular UI policy. Okay, so as of now, let it be global. But whenever you want to be particular only for particular view, then you can deselect it and you can select that particular view. Okay. So if you want any UI policy to be run on load as well, then you have to select this particular checkbox which is on load, which is by default selected. Okay. So reverse if false we already seen. So reverse effect of UI policy actions when conditions evaluates to false. Okay. So the UI policy conditions, whenever it got false as well, this particular every UI policy will be running if it is reverse false. Okay. So you have to make a note of that. Okay. So whenever if you want any table extends, table that extends specific table inherit this UI policy. So for example, on incident from incident, some other table got extended. Okay. Do you want to run on that particular tables as well? So then you can select this inherit. Okay. So for example, if there is any UI policy on task and you want to work that particular UI policy on all the child tables, for example, incident, problem, chain, then you have to check this inherit box on task level UI policy. Okay. So we have script as well. So whenever if your UI policy, like let me save this as of now. So in the script part, okay. So if this conditions gets evaluates to true, if you want to run some scripts, you have to click run scripts. Okay. So there will be two sections, executive true, executive false. Okay, and what type of UI type you want to run this. Okay, this is similar to client script. Okay, but what is executive true and what if executive false is whenever this particular condition matches, I want to run this particular code. Whenever this condition not matches, I want to run this particular code. Okay. So if you want this kind of functionality, then you can write some script here. Okay, generally, but it is not recommended. All the scripts, whichever you want to write, those you can write it in client scripts itself. Okay, but if there is any requirement, if you have to write this, then you can write in this particular run scripts. Okay. So we know that like we have UI policy actions and UI policy related list actions. So UI policy actions are which we already know what we want to do. We want to make demo field mandatory. So this particular demo field, I want to make it mandatory, and I want to even show it so that in other states I want to hide it. Okay. In other states I want to hide it. That means I want to show whenever it is only new and in progress. Okay. So what it will do, if the state is in new or in progress, this particular demo field will be visible and it will be mandatory. Okay. Let me open it in default view. So there is demo field. It is running on onload as well. Okay. As so whenever the form gets loaded, that UI policy is running. That's why if the state is in progress, this particular demo field is getting visible and it is mandatory. Okay. So if you change the state to resolved, it won't be visible. Why? Because what we have written, it should be visible true only if it is new and in progress. That means in other states, it will be hiding it. Okay. So if you do not want to hide it, then what you can do, you can leave this alone, this particular field. You can mark it as leave alone so that it won't hide. Okay. It will be just not mandatory when it is on hold or resolved, closed or cancelled. If it is new or in progress, then only we want to make it mandatory. In any other states, I want to make it not mandatory. Okay. So so now even in other states like resolved or closed or cancelled, it won't hide. So it is not hiding, it is just making not mandatory. Okay. And so there is one more section which is UI policy related list actions. Okay. So what we can get is we will be getting all the related lists here. Okay. For example, if you load the related lists, here we have few lists. Okay. For example, this child incidents are there, right? This child incident I want to show only whenever it is new and in progress. Okay. So the list name we have to select properly. So there are few lists like task SLA, affected CAs, impacted CAs. Okay, we have to know what is this particular incident, this child incident got mapped with. So if you see here, it is mapped with parent incident. Okay, so we have to select parent incident with the incident. Okay, it is mapped with parent incident field, so I have to select it. Okay, and I want to show it only whenever it is new and in progress. Okay, so now it is new, it is in progress state, right? So I can see the child incident. If I make it to resolve, it got hidden. Okay, how it got hidden? We have applied that particular UI policy for that related list. Okay. Okay. So let me open that particular UI policy. So as we are making this particular related list to be visible only if it is new and in progress. Okay. So, and there is one more action apart from mandatory, visible, and read only. That is clear field value. Okay. For example, I can show you that. So, for example, I want to make so whenever it is getting changed, I want to clear this particular subcategory field value. Okay, I want to make it mandatory and clear this. Okay, let me check. So subcategory field. I'll make it mandatory too, and I'll be clearing the field value. When it will work when it is new and in progress. Okay, let me refresh it. One second. Okay, so as it got mandatory by default and it clear the value. So for example, let me save it. And now let me say, so instead of resolved, so what I want to do now, like whenever the state is new and in progress, subcategory should be mandatory and it should clear the value. Okay, so I am just changing to in progress. So whatever the previous value it was there, it got cleared and now the value is none here. Okay, so in those cases, whenever you want a fresh value and you want to clear that particular value, you can just select clear value and you can make that mandatory so that they can enter. Okay, so is everyone got or any other doubts in UI policy?
Sunil, can
Yes,
we hide or apply this UA policies to the links on the form? Like we'll be having links to redirecting to other tables or something like that.
related
Let's
links.
yes, yes.
So we can't hide these. We should hide this in the UI actions itself.
Okay. So
So
using
these will
UA
be.
policy, UA action, we can do that, right?
I didn't get you.
Okay, you mean to say UI action. In the UI action,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
need to.
So these particular buttons and these particular related links will be coming from UI action. Okay. So
Yes.
like based on the condition itself, those will be hiding or showing. Okay. For example, I am seeing close incident now. It was not previously, it was not there. Why I am seeing it here is why, because the condition might be if state is in progress, then only show this. So that those conditions we can check in UI actions, we can apply there itself.
Okay, Sunil. Thank you.
Okay. So there will be few more things which I leave. So let's check in the documentation. So UI policy is a client side API, means it will be running on the client side itself. It won't run on the server side. Okay. If you want to make it to run on the client side as well, what you have to, like server side as well. So it is a client side API. So only when what is mean by client side is whenever any user like you or me or anyone opens any form and changes something, it will be running. That is client side. So whenever you want to make it work on the server side as well, there is an option called convert this to data policy. So what it will do, it will be converting it to data policy. Okay. So data policies are something which will be running on the server side as well. Okay. So UI policy is client side, data policies are server side. So what is mean by server side is, for example, whenever you are, for example, let's check what is there. So if the state is in 6 or 7, which is resolved or closed, what we want to do? We want to make close code and close notes are mandatory. Only that particular UI policy we have an incident. Okay, how this will work and how UI policy will work, I'll tell you. Okay, so let's check. Whenever it is in new or in progress, this particular thing is mandatory. Okay, and this is changing. For example, it is on hold. I am making it to in progress. If I save the form, it's getting saved without asking or without throwing me an error. Why? Because this is actually getting saved in the database directly. Okay. Okay. So, but if you like, as the data policy will be running on the back end as well. This, if you check here, where is the data policy? So if you try to make resolved or closed, these things are mandatory, close code and close notes. So I'll try to make some in progress. This one to resolve. Okay. So if I try now, it is saying data policy exceptions, following fields are mandatory. Okay. Why we are getting it right? So it won't allow to save the form until and unless those particular fields are saved. Okay, this will happen. This data policy exception you will get even you are trying to insert the data from any table APIs or any REST APIs, or even from the any other XMLs or through the transform maps or through the SOAP. It won't allow until and unless these particular mandatory fields you give the mandatory fields. It won't save the particular record. So if you have some kind of restrictions like that, it has to mandatorily be saved. Mandatory, you have to give the value, then only you want to save that particular form. You have to write the data policy. But if you want only whenever user is giving the values, then what you can do, you can just use the UI policy. Okay. So you can see here in the data policies, we will be having apply to import sets, apply to SOAP, use as UI policy on client. Means you can use this particular same data policy on UI policy as well. That's why we didn't see the UI policy there, but it was applied. Like if I show you, if I make it to resolved, these particular things will get mandatory. I'll show you. Okay. For example, this is in progress. So for example, state is in progress and these are not mandatory. Okay, as a user, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to make it resolved. And it got mandatory without, like, there is no UI policy for this. How it is working? Because there is a data policy and there is a checkbox users UI policy on client. So if you check it, it will be automatically running. So if you don't want to run this and you want to convert this to UI policy, you can even convert it to UI policy by unchecking it. Okay. Did you get the difference between data policy and UI policy? So in the UI policy, there will be only two things, read only and mandatory. There won't be anything like visibility, because from the backend, every field is visible in the XML. Okay. So read only or mandatory. So what happens? What is mean by read only is, for example, I'll show you. Whenever state is in the, whenever state is one of resolved or closed, okay, resolved or closed, what I want to do, let's say I want to make particular assign to field to read only. Okay. So if I try to open incident, may refresh. So this is a resolved ticket. Okay. This is resolved and I'll try to change this assign to. I got error. The following fields is read only. Assigned to can't be changed. Why I got that error? Okay, because that is read only. Even if you try to change from anywhere, you can't change it because it's already has been resolved. You can't change the assign to now. Like even if you open it and check, as this will be running as UI policy as well. Here it will be read only itself. You can't change that particular value now as it's read only. Are you getting how these particular things are getting applied? Okay. So even when it is state is resolved, if you are trying to give the value in XML, it will throw the error saying you can't pass assign to value. Okay. That is how it will be working. So is everyone got how the data policy is working and how what is the difference between data policy and UI policy? So generally we will be, yeah.
We got it, sir.
Yeah. So generally we'll be using the data policy to make some things mandatory. Like whenever you are resolving, compulsory you have to give how that is particular, like that particular incident got resolved, what you did in order to make it resolved, so that you can use that particular information in the future, or in order to review, we have to have that particular information mandatory. So in those cases, you have to use the data policy so that like no one can skip it. Okay. So that's it for today. Uh, I can tell you about client types of client scripts tomorrow. Okay.